Hello, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com, and today I'm talking with you about quantum jump starts into good relationships and improved relationships and true love, all those things. So you might be wondering, how can all those things be possible with quantum jumps? Well, you may be familiar by now with my book, Quantum Jumps, An Extraordinary Science of Happiness and Prosperity. And if you're not, then I'd like to introduce you to some of the ideas in it today. One of them has to do with a story, a true life experience that I share about finding true love in a telepathy experiment. And this has to do with a couple of participants that were engaged in studying telepathy, and it had to do with noticing whether or not anything would change when they're being stared at by someone who's not in the same room. So one of the participants, was gazing intently on a closed circuit screen that was intermittently showing another person in another room. In this case, the person doing the viewing is Boccuzzi, and the person he's viewing is Julie Beischel. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, what happened that was so interesting is that every time Mark could see Julie, there were noticeable spikes at the exact same moment that her image was taken away. It was almost as if her body was saying, "Where did he go?" And that's what Julie said afterward. At the time, Julie couldn't immediately tell anything when she talked to Mark about the powerful connections that she was feeling to him, because after all, they were strangers. They just met in this experiment. But now Julie and Mark are married, and they do credit telepathy for helping them meet and fall in love. Julie says it was nothing like nothing I had ever encountered. And one of the things I love to do in this book, Quantum Jumps, is I go through some of the different things you can do to get a quantum jump start in life. The whole idea here springs forward from psychologist William James's idea that one of the best things you can do is to take action. When you act as if you have a quality, then you definitely are much further along toward having that quality. And often that's all it takes, just to start doing things in accordance with that new belief, that new idea. And so you can improve your relationships by acting close. And I've got some wonderful descriptions of that based on some science that's being conducted. One of the researchers that's doing this work is at the University of Hertfordshire. He's psychology professor Richard Wiseman. And he started off in life as a professional magician, but now the kind of magic that he's doing has to do with working with speed daters, such as the ones that he worked with recently in Edinburgh, Scotland. And what he did is he separated these speed daters into a couple of different groups. One group just ran like the usual speed dating, where at the end of every minute or two, people would get up, move to the next station, and it's just snap, 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 meeting new people all the time. The other group had something different going on. They had an assignment to do. And so what the assignment was special instructions for these other couples to pretend they were already intimately acquainted. These couples were instructed to hold hands, share secrets, and gaze into each other's eyes. And at the end of the study, when all the speed daters were asked how close they felt to their partners and how many of them would like to see their partners again, whereas only 20% of the regular speed daters wanted to pursue this relationship any further, those who had done the special activities basically voted 45% of the time that yes, they'd like to see that person again. And this is what leads Wiseman to say, actions are the quickest, easiest, and most powerful way to instantly change how you think and feel. This was backed up by University of California at San Diego psychology professor Dr. Robert Epstein, who conducted similar exercises, this time with some things that he called soul gazing, where two people just gaze into each other's eyes. And he found that there was a 7% increase in loving, an 11% increase in liking, and a 45% increase in closeness, with 89% of the participants reporting tremendous increased feelings of intimacy. He had some other exercises as well, such as embracing each other gently while sensing and synchronizing breathing, placing the palm of the hands as close as possible to your partner's palm without actually touching. And what's amazing about that is not only can you feel the closeness, but sometimes participants would notice sparks actually happening. There's a real chemistry and real electricity going on. And furthermore, when they took actions to become closer to loved ones, the main point that Dr. Epstein wanted to say and to make is that this is not inauthenticity, because the students in his course were doing something new. And he said what they were doing is taking control over their love lives. And so I think that this is an important thing to make note of. You can do this in existing relationships that you have right now. And so this idea that we can increase closeness just by what we do is one of the most powerful ideas that I think could bring peace to this whole planet. So if you think about relationships where you might already have an idea in mind of who someone is or what they're thinking, instead of getting fixated on what you think that they're thinking or that they're like, have in mind the idea instead that you can access another possible reality. You can get to the reality where instead of being that person that you find so difficult to be around or that there are problems with, instead you're feeling closer. And this is one big way that you can start asking that question I love so much: how good can it get? So until next time, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com.